facing backlash for saying this.
Ivanka Trump, who works at the White House, chose to post the second most oblivious tweet we've seen this week. You know, Ivanka, that's a beautiful photo of you and your child, but let me just say, one mother to another, do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless. He listens to you. Put on something tight and low cut and tell your father to stop it. Tell him it was an Obama thing and see how it goes, okay?
The White House responded, calling those remarks vile and vicious. Bee has since apologized, saying her comments were inexcusable and that she crossed the line. Despite the backlash, celebrities are standing by Bee. Michael Moore is calling it a brilliant rant, and Sally Field is showing support with a vulgar tweet of her own. There's also comedian Kathy Griffin. She's going after White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders for this response to the Roseanne controversy.
The president's pointing to the hypocrisy in the media, saying that the most horrible things about this president, and nobody addresses it. Where was the apology for Kathy Griffin going on a profane rant against the president on The View after a photo showed her holding President Trump's decapitated head?
Okay. Griffin tweeting Bee with lots of asterisks. Do not come for me. I did not call you, and for F, lots of asterisks, sake. Take a cold reading class. Maybe you won't stumble so much. And if that's not enough for you, there is heavy metal band No FX. Punk band No FX, which has been dropped from a music festival for joking about the victims of the Las Vegas shooting.
Play a song about Muslims when you get shot. All right.
Man, I'm still getting shot in Vegas unless if you're in a country band.
You know, that sucked, but at least they were country fans and not punk rock fans.
Okay, so it's Thursday. So TGIF tomorrow. It's been quite a week for all of these types of things. Greg, let me just turn it over to you for some semblance of sense. Like, bring us back to earth. What's going on?
Well, okay. It feels like we're on an outraged superhighway.
Yes.
And it's all driven by emotion, which creates these moments where people say things. And then those moments become opportunities for scalps, right? And the scalps are then, because if I don't like your politics, I'm going to get your scalp and vice versa. That leads to companies reacting in fear, firing people, suspending people because they see the pitchforks amassing as a mob. But here's the thing. Samantha Bee apologized, and I believe you should always accept an apology, even though I know no one's going to return the favor to me. This is what,
I apologize.
I would say this for everybody here at the table. That people are coming after you and waiting for you to slip up at any moment. Yes, there are organizations that are paid millions, that have sponsors, that just wait for us to screw up so they can go after your advertisers, go after your livelihood, your career. So, but we don't do that. Like, I would not say that to Samantha Bee. I would not say it. Say she apologized, that's fine. But I know that there's an industry of knives waiting for all of us. And I realize the only solution is that we have to do it back to them so it becomes this mutually assured destruction. But I don't want to do that. Why can't we just stop doing this?
Yes. Well, when you say all of us, you mean conservatives, people on the right.
Yeah,
so
anybody at Fox News.
Distinction, yeah, that's true. There are people who are paid to monitor Fox News all day long, and they sit there and they wait for you to say something that then they can create a headline out of. I think that's probably true.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness, Greg. Mm-hmm. The C word is the gender equivalent of the N word. Mm-hmm. It is extreme and it is disgusting. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about looking for a person to slip up here or there. This wasn't a slip up.
I think this you missed my point,
though. This was a full frontal assault.
I know. You missed my point.
Ivanka Trump.
You're missing my point. What I'm talking about is I'm saying that I'm willing to accept an apology even though no one will ever accept our apologies, as we see.
Yeah,
and that is I would say, the way that we were all raised, like, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Accept an apology, man.
Yes, accept an apology. Yeah. But let me ask you, Geraldo, about this. So when Roseanne Barr did her tweet and her apology, that it was just a joke, and then later on said, well, actually, I was on Ambien and try to blame that. This actually was something, I don't know if Samantha Bee intended or wrote into the script the C word, but it obviously was there. It sounded
like it was scripted.
And it got a reaction from the crowd.
The crowd loved it.
Right. Which is that why people keep doing this?
Well, I guess, Greg and I were speaking before the show, and he suggested that maybe she premeditated this because her ratings have been lagging. I asked about her ratings. But to me, this is a larger problem. I think that particularly about Ivanka. I think that to attack Ivanka for the purported sins of her father is extremely unfair. And you remember from your tenure in the White House, the kids, okay, now this is not a kid. This is a fully mature woman, an entrepreneur.
And who's working at the White
fully
House.
accomplished, and she is working for no pay, as is Jared Kushner, her husband, for no pay. I think they are both brilliant. I think they're the most underestimated people in Washington. And I think they are easy marks for people like Samantha Bee to be snotty to and to attack and to try to tear down. And I think that this was an absolutely premeditated. How do I, number one, because I buy into Greg's point partially that this was premeditated as a ratings, look at me. But number two, to use something this vicious, she knew. The C word, it's just like, it's like Roseanne. It's like there's some places you just can't go anymore. We've evolved past that.
Jesse, there were very quick and decisive consequences for Roseanne, and it doesn't look so much like that will be the case for Samantha Bee.
No, they'll apologize and put out a statement, and then the media say, let's move on. She apologized. On to the next. Mark. Could be Greg. We're all waiting for it.
I think you're first. I think it's you.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I disagree with Geraldo. I don't think the C word is the equivalent to the N word. I think it's maybe down a notch. Not to say it's not bad, but I wouldn't equate what Roseanne said to Samantha Bee.
The gender equivalent, I say.
Could maybe the gender equivalent,
in
but
its category.
I don't know how you can slice or dice it. It's ugly. It's just not as ugly as the N word. I agree. She's looking for attention. It's almost like a cry for help. The ratings aren't good. She's not a talented comedian. She's not on the level of a Colbert or a Jon Stewart. It's Samantha B-list, people call her. So she's trying to make waves. And the only way she can do that is by being filthy. And I asked the brain room, these people at Fox News that do all the numbers crunching for us.
For you.
Right. I said, give me a list of other nasty stuff. She said, I have 3 pages of some of the most derogatory sexual slurs she's used against members of the Trump family. Some of these things I can't even say about the president. Almost every single one of them would...
Well, don't be a tease. Give us something.
Let him read something while we get Jedediah in.
I mean, it's all bad. And, some of the worst stuff she's reserved for the women. Kellyanne Conway, the B word, F you, Hope Hicks, effing evil Sarah Sanders. It's funny how these female comedians, whether it's a Chelsea Handler or a Samantha Bee, they save the worst for the women in the Trump world, whether it's Melania or Ivanka or Sarah Sanders, because they, I think, have more license as liberal feminists to just go nuts on these people.
Jedediah, you know a little something about that.
Well, they're also really mad because their girl didn't win.
Sure.
And I feel like these comedians have gone from being funny to just being angry. And I like your use of the word snotty, because we're watching just adult Mean Girls all the time. And I think comedians have a hard job in this day and age because you have to walk a fine line. You want to be funny, but you can't be too unpolitically correct, or then you risk, did I say something to offend someone here or there? So they do have a tough job. But comedy should primarily be funny. This isn't funny. This is just someone who has a problem with someone and is turning into a mean girl before our eyes and seeing what she can get away with saying. I do happen to think that this had to be scripted. People heard it. This was a network decision to release this. I mean, I don't understand how something like this isn't an off-the-cuff comment.
Not a live show. It's pre-taped.
It's pre-taped.
They bleeped the
Come
word.
on.
Everybody, all the way up to the top brass, I'm sure knows this is what she
and I
profits
think
in.
networks have to make a decision about how they're going to handle this stuff, because what you don't want it to look like is that there's selective outrage and selective consequences, because then people jump and say, is there an ideological reason why some people get fired and some people don't? So if you're going to take a hard stance on people and say, we live in a day and age where we're not going to tolerate insulting, mean, nasty stuff that's not funny and that's just meant to make people feel bad or be racist or whatever, then you have to do that across the board. Otherwise, you look like you're being selective.
I think she's not going to be canned because TBS doesn't think they're going to lose audience. If you saw the reaction, everybody cheered. She may actually gain viewers after something like
but
this.
I'm with Greg,
Whereas
though.
Roseanne, I think people would turn that off.
Yeah, see, I would be inclined to accept the apology, but then it has to be if somebody apologizes across the board. There has to be a policy here that it's not like, well, one person says something heinous and disgusting and they lose their job. Another person at another network says something heinous and disgusting and they somehow keep their job and then potentially get promoted. That doesn't make sense.
This is how you make sense of this. Why there is selective outrage goes back to what I believe Charles Krauthammer said in the 80s, the difference between left and right. The right thinks you're wrong, the left thinks you're evil. So that defines the selective outrage, meaning that someone can get away with saying something heinous about you because you're evil.
Right.
But if I say something equally as disgusting about, I don't know, any liberal, they'll go like, how could you do that? That's disgusting. You're a terrible person. So it's that divide. They think you're evil. We think they're wrong. That creates this culture that green lights everything.
They can make excuses for the discussion.
You're such a bad person.
Right. And because their mission, their political agenda is so righteous that they can allow for gaffes and things like this to happen in the goal for
But what happened to also the self-policing of your own side?
Well, look, I mean, but the example is you mentioned the band No Effects. They made a joke about the shooting of these people. And they said, well, at least they were country music fans.
59 dead people.
Yeah. But you know why they did that? Because the assumption is that country music fans to that liberal band are nothing but racist rednecks. Yeah. So the joke is okay because they are bad people. You see the point?
I think there's another point, and it has to do with timing. I have made my share of gaffes, and some of them, I look back on and say, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
The timing of your apology is, to me, very critical. For example, if you apologize, as Samantha Bee and Roseanne did, hours after you talk to your PR person, you've talked to your management, you've talked to your executive producer, you've seen an audience reaction, and it's that I give that very little credit. I don't in any way that doesn't absolve the sin. If you do it almost immediately, if you say, oh, my God, did I screw up? You hit the send button. Oh, geez, I wish I didn't do that. Let me get that back. I think that if there is a near spontaneous apology where it comes from the soul, where you are your own policeman, where you're your own monitor, and you're responding to what your own misdeed or misfeasance, then I say, okay, cut him some